Breitling have launched 3 new top times. I've got 2 of them here. But the big thing about these watches isn't necessarily the watch themselves, but actually the movement inside them. This is a brand new Breitling manufacture B31 movement. And Breitling's been surprisingly open about the details of this movement, which is really quite refreshing. We need more of that in the industry. Over the years, Breitling have been launching time only or time and date only versions of their legendary chronographs, and that's exactly what they've done here. The original top time was launched back in 1964 as a chronograph aimed at sports or technical matters, as they call it. Because of that, you could choose different dials depending on what you need the function of the chronograph to be. For example, you could have a UPH tachymeter, units per hour tachymeter. You could have a pulsometer dial to measure pulses per minute. Or you could have a decimal dial, a minute cut up into 100 segments. In 1965, the top time joined the ranks of being a Bond watch. James Bond wore one on his wrist in the film Thunderball. And fun fact, that exact watch was found and bought at a car boot for £25. The actual watch that James Bond wore on his wrist. It was later auctioned in 2013. For £104,000. That's a pretty epic find. This new top time is a time and date only watch, and it comes in 3 colorways. We've got a dark green with a really dark gray chapter ring. We've got a deep blue with a white chapter ring, and then we have a white dial with a baby blue chapter ring. And then you have strap and bracelet options to go along with that. There's very obvious vintage inspirations going on here. We've got a domed sapphire crystal. We have this very bright orange running seconds hand. And then of course that contrasting chapter ring. Also the case size and dimensions, that's giving off very much a vintage vibe. This is a 38mm wide watch. However, it's automatic and very, very thin. Despite, if you take off the dome sapphire crystal, it's very thin. You then have very modern touches. The fact that we have this 3-link bracelet with the high polished center links, that's a very sporty bracelet. It gives the watch a much more modern feel. On the bracelet within the clasp, we have an on-the-fly micro adjustment, which is a very modern thing and something that I feel all watches must have. And then of course, you've got the display case back with this surprisingly beautifully finished movement. So rest of the specifications, the case is stainless steel. As I mentioned, it's 38mm wide. It's 10.3mm thick, but the case itself is really very thin. It's got a domed sapphire crystal, and I'd comfortably say that's adding at least 2mm on top of that. Take away that domed sapphire crystal, and you do have really quite a pleasingly thin watch. The lug to lug is 45.8mm long. The lugs themselves are 20mm, and the domed sapphire crystal has anti-reflective coating on the underside, and the display case back has sapphire crystal as well. Now, I guess my first gripe is it doesn't have a screw down crown. It does have 2 gaskets within the crown, and it does have 100 meters of water resistance. One thing I do like about the crown is the size of it and the fact there are no crown guards. That's another thing that makes it feel a bit more vintage. A gorgeous looking watch, but I feel like the movement is the showstopper, the big story here. This is Breitling's manufacture caliber B31. It's got a free sprung balance wheel that improves precision. It's also got a skeletonized oscillating weight, and it does have bi-directional winding, so whichever way the rotor's moving, it will be winding the watch. The movement is finished to quite a surprising level for the price. We've got Geneva stripes on top plates, and just at the back you can see some really nice perlage going on. Again, that's really quite impressive for the price. So as I mentioned at the start, Breitling have been surprisingly open around the manufacture of the movement. A lot of people make out that they make the movements themselves, they make all the components, and Breitling outright just said, we use our suppliers, we use trusted suppliers to make the components, and then the movement is assembled either by Breitling or AMT. AMT is where the fancy movements are made. Each movement is cost certified, and they're put through really quite a few hefty tests. Breitling say the movement has gone through the equivalent of 16 years worth of tests. The crown has been tested for 100,000 winds. The rotor at the back has been tested to 3.5 million winds. And then the movement has been tested for shock. It's been put through 60,000 tests of up to 500 G. Absolutely outrageous. On a more practical note, it has 76 hours of power reserve and comes with a 5-year warranty. Now for the price, this is $4,550 on a strap or $4,850 on a bracelet. Now that's a lot of money, but when you compare it to where the rest of the market is, and I guess alternative watches like the IWC Spitfire perhaps, the Omega Aquaterra 38mm, you could throw the Rolex Explorer in there as an alternative. This sits really quite favorably. Now, a couple of pros and cons about this watch. Let's start with the cons. The lack of screw-down crown. I feel like it should have a screw-down crown. I feel like the Cyclops, although it's fine within the design of the watch, I feel from a purpose point of view, I feel the date window on its own is plenty large enough. And then I guess it's just a little OCD thing. The clasp is a raised, high-polished section at the back. That's just asking to be scratched, but the clasp is quite nice. Now, pros, it's got a very good bracelet extension system. I do enjoy that. It's very simple to use. The machining is very clean. It does exactly what you want it to do. There's lots of little segments so you can get exactly the size that you want. It's easy to interact with, but you're also not going to accidentally interact with it. The case is very slim, and this is nice to see. It is a time and date only watch. Case thickness is often overlooked from watch brands. It's nice to see that being executed so well. Now, typically, when a watch comes with bracelet or strap options, I always say buy the watch on the bracelet, if you can, of course, because if you decide you want the bracelet later on, it's then very expensive to buy the bracelet later. That being said, my favorite combination of this is actually the white dial with the baby blue chapter ring on the brown racing leather strap. That combination is stunning. Love that. However, all of these look absolutely fantastic on a Bark & Jack single piece nylon strap. It looks particularly good on one of our 70/30 weave straps. It really brings out the vintage feel of the watch. Guys, let me know what you think of this new Breitling Top Time, which colorway you think is the best. Drop a comment down below, let me know your thoughts. If you're on Instagram, give me a follow at Bark & Jack. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. If you like this stylist video, hit the subscribe button down there and that little bell icon so you get notifications when I drop a new video. There's gonna be so many videos dropping over the next couple of weeks because this is new watch season. I'll see you very soon. Take care.